There's no specific evidence of what Jason did himself. Now, the way the Crown approached the case was that they argued that the Freedom Convoy itself was a mischief.
All here in support of Jay.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming out. That's pretty special.
Oh, they left the windows open. Very kind of them. So the truck's all full of snow.
Oh, fun.
If you guys don't know, this is Jay, the owner of the truck. You've probably seen him around.
Honestly, I was sitting in an excavator on a job site, and I honestly think it was the Holy Spirit that just told me, you gotta go, you gotta say something, stand up for the others. Just a quick note on my case, I have 2 charges of mischief and 1 of resisting a peace officer. Some of you may have watched when I got arrested how much I resisted. Calm down. Don't please. Everybody calm down.
We are here out of love for our families, our communities, and our nation. These past 2 years, the COVID mandates have divided us. This protest began because of the federal government's restrictions on trucker freedoms. We are therefore calling on all levels of government in Canada to end all COVID mandates and restrictions. We will continue our protest until we see a clear plan for their elimination. So far, no one from the federal, provincial, or municipal government has spoken directly with us. Instead, they are using you, the media, to portray us as racists, misogynists, and even terrorists.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations.
No matter what you do, we will hold the line.
Everyone remembers the 2022 Freedom Convoy that traveled across the country to protest for 3 weeks in Ottawa. Thousands of Canadians from all corners of the country gathered to express their concerns regarding government overreach and tyrannical COVID restrictions. At that point in time, if you did not have the mRNA vaccine, you were fired, not allowed to see your family in the hospital or even sit down at a restaurant.
If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
Canadian truckers were the ones to sound the alarm and stand up for medical freedom for all, and it became the largest peaceful civil liberties protest in modern history.
We know the way through this pandemic is by getting everyone vaccinated. And the overwhelming majority, close to 90% of Canadians, have done exactly that. The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians.
Among them was Vanderwier, who was at the forefront of the entire demonstration with his truck, known by protesters as the Shed, and was parked in front of the Parliament until Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act, granting exceptional powers to both the government and law enforcement agencies to implement martial law and crack skulls of the truckers who were demonstrating peacefully for Canadian livelihood. My video producer, Guillaume Roy and Lincoln J. were on the ground for the 3 weeks and witnessed firsthand during the riot police removal of the protesters. We saw the heavy-handedness of the government for protesters they don't like. Paper spraying participants, including Guillaume Roy.
Okay. With just water, and then you can put your head down, okay?
And I personally was shot by the RCMP while reporting. You can still contribute to my cause at standwithalexa.com.
Take care. Bring her out, come on.
Jay himself was arrested too during this chaos and was charged with multiple criminal offenses, resisting arrest, and even mischief.
Get out, now. Get out, come here. Now. Let's go. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down, please. Everybody calm down.
My colleague Efron Mosento captured his hometown of Grimsby, Ontario, coming out in huge support of his trial last month and spoke to him before he traveled back to Ottawa for court.
Well, I was there from the start to the end, and we got parked right at the center. And we soon realized that the main leaders, like Tamara or Chris or something, we weren't going to meet them because they were busy fighting against their money getting, like the 10 million bucks getting frozen. And so I just sort of started meeting all the guys on my little block, and I became the block captain sort of just out of necessity. We would meet in my shed and try to organize who could go get a shower somewhere, or if a guy needed to find a room to get a couple hours of quiet. That's kind of what I did, and it was crazily busy, and I can't even describe it, but yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. Just a quick note on my case: I have 2 charges of mischief and 1 of resisting a peace officer. Some of you may have watched when I got arrested how much I resisted.
Even though the federal court ruled in January 2024 that the Liberal government unconstitutionally and unjustifiably invoked the Emergencies Act, the charges against Jay remained, as he was charged under the Criminal Code and not under the Emergencies Act. He recently had a trial, and David Anber, the lawyer representing Jay Vanderwier, is here to explain the recent ruling of the court.
So the trial took place at the beginning of February, and after the conclusion of the evidence and arguments, the judge reserved his decision. What that means is that he took some time to think about it and to come up with his decision. So today was the decision. The judge found Mr. Vanderwier guilty of the offenses that remained before the court, the 2 mischief counts. And what he found was that the Freedom Convoy itself was a mischief. He found that Mr. Vanderwier participated actively in the Freedom Convoy on the offense date. He also found that Mr. Vanderwier did not have the defense of color of right, nor did he have the defense under subsection 7 of the mischief provision, saying that if you are delivering a message, it does not constitute a mischief. So the judge rejected our arguments and found him guilty. What was interesting is that there's no specific evidence of what Jason did himself. Now, the way the Crown approached the case was that they argued that the Freedom Convoy itself was a mischief, that it blocked roads, that it led to loud noises for long periods of time. And as a result, if people participated in the Freedom Convoy, and there was evidence before the court of Jason's participation in the Freedom Convoy, that participation of a contributing nature to the Freedom Convoy, and thus made him a party to the offense or even a principal actor. So on that basis, the judge found that he had committed mischief.
Emergencies Act was judged unconstitutional, and now it seems that it's not playing in the balance for those that are accused because of the Freedom Convoy.
The Emergencies Act being found to be unconstitutional is a bit of a red herring. I mean, that's probably been the question I've been asked the most since that court decision came out, what impact it has. And part of my argument at the time as to why the Emergencies Act was not a proper exercise of authority was it's only supposed to be used when there's no other available legal mechanism to solve whatever problem the government deems needs to be solved. And the criminal code could have been used, and the existing police resources could have been used to address the Freedom Convoy if they felt that it was a problem or that there was criminal activity going on. And so the fact that the criminal code could have been used, in my view, was one of the reasons why it should never have been invoked in the first place, the Emergencies Act. In this case, this is good evidence of that, is that the Emergencies Act was not the basis for the arrest of Mr. Vanderwier. He was arrested under the criminal code. He was arrested under laws that already existed at the time. And so there was he wasn't prosecuted under the Emergencies Act. He wasn't arrested under the Emergencies Act. The Emergencies Act, I think, gave the police sort of the moral superiority, or like their sense that they were doing the right thing, but the police still were acting on the Criminal Code of Canada, arguing that, not arguing, but alleging that he had committed a mischief, and that was the argument the Crown made in court. There was also evidence that wasn't addressed by the judge of Mr. Vanderwier saying that he was in touch every day with a police liaison officer. And so at some point, even the Crown would have to reach the irresistible conclusion that the protest was lawful at some point. And their theory was that it must have become unlawful. But nobody answered the question that I put in my submissions to the judge. If it became unlawful, what was it that decided when it became unlawful? The only evidence we had was that the police decided that essentially they were going to start doing enforcement action. And interpreting constitutional rights, it can't be the law that the police just get to decide when you've exercised your rights enough. And so that was an important argument that we had raised. And with the greatest respect to the judge, I think he didn't really address that question that I posed in my arguments.
So, what are the possible charges that Jay is facing right now?
Okay, well, he's been found guilty of 2 counts of mischief. Both of the counts of mischief involve the same conduct, and so he cannot be sentenced on both. One of the charges has been essentially suspended, so he's only going to be sentenced on one of the charges because they both deal with the same conduct, and you can't be double punished. So there will be a number of options. My understanding is that the Crown is seeking a period of jail. They have at many points, for people who are very involved in the convoy, been seeking very high jail sentences. The Crown may not be seeking a very high jail sentence in this case. I don't know what he's going to seek. The matter's been postponed to allow for what's called a pre-sentence report. So a probation officer is going to weigh in on the opinions on Mr. Vanderweer's prospects of rehabilitation and being able to be supervised. And if it's positive, it can militate in favor of a more lenient sentence. So although jail is on the table, lesser forms of punishment may be available. And I'm not going to tip my hand as to where we're going yet, but lesser forms of punishment could include a house arrest, or it could include intermittent jail, it could include house arrest, it could include probation. It could even potentially include a discharge, which would not be considered a criminal conviction. Which of those options we ultimately seek will be the product of considering a number of things, including the evidence at trial and the pre-sentence report. So at this stage, I'm not really at liberty to venture my opinions. but when the matter's argued in court, June 27th, when the matter's argued back in court, the judge will likely render his sentence at that time.
So what is the next step if you ever have jail time or house arrest? Are you going to appeal the decision?
The decision to appeal a case is obviously one that the defense always considers when the result is unsuccessful. I think I'm going to have a conversation with Jason, him and I'm going to discuss aspects of the judge's ruling that I think are possible things that could be appealed. I mean, the law in Canada concerning appeal, many people don't know this, but the law is very conservative, and what I mean by that is it gives a lot of deference to the lower court judge, no matter what the result is. There are lots of rules that limit what an appeal court can do and the types of things that it can reverse. So I want to take a close look at that with Jason as the types of arguments that could be raised on appeal. But that's a conversation for him and I to have in a more private venue.
Jay Vanderwier, Tamara Lich, Chris Barber, and a lot of them are being prosecuted because they did participated to the Freedom Convoy. We are going to follow all those trials. So you can follow us through our coverage at truckertrial.com. You don't want to miss that. You want to keep yourself up to date and especially not forget about what happened. So I repeat, truckertrial.com.